Hi there, Language Arts Lady here with another episode of 10-Minute Grammar. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and are starting out to have a great New Year. I had a wonderful time with my family over Christmas. I am sporting, those of you who are listening on iTunes won't be able to see this, but those of you who are watching, I'm sporting my new Nana necklace. It has all 10 loveys on it and me, which I just love that one of the kids in love gave to me for Christmas. So anyway, I am going to be teaching today about teaching children how to write thank you cards for Christmas. Now I have a series of products called Christmas thank you cards. And they're almost done for you. Maybe you've seen the reels. Maybe you've seen the videos of them floating around. I'm going to come at this writing approach here from those levels. So let me just give you a little explanation what those are so that when I refer to those, you'll know what I mean. So the Christmas thank you cards, almost done for you thank you cards that I sell digitally. I think they're like $5 or something for each level. They have 55 pages in them, so they're very, very jam-packed. But you don't have to use those to follow today's advice, so stay with me. All right, so they come in pre-writing, beginning writing, and advanced writing. And there, you'll see as we go through here why we have those different breakdowns in levels as I go through each level with you. So I'm going to use those same levels in today's broadcast. Here we go. Pre-writing, I consider this to be maybe third grade if you have a very, a 3-year-old if you have a very, like verbal 3-year-old, all the way up to second grade or even beyond that if the writing isn't there. One of the things to remember when you are doing something like this is to be sure that you're not asking too many skills of them at one time. I talk about this a lot in a lot of the podcast and also my video cast at Language Arts Lady. But when we bring so many things together and we're having so many different skills and the child is at different levels in each of those skills, it can be very tricky. So in this case, we are asking, let's suppose we're asking a first grader who is just barely learning to write sentences with somebody telling him how to spell the, okay? Oh, I love them so much, don't you? Anyway, we're asking them to pen. We're asking them to create, if you're going to create the cards from scratch, or even if you're coloring the ones that I have, and we're asking them to write, not just pen, but also write in terms of coming up with content, right? And then maybe even another element is just the whole concept of not just composing and creating and thinking of what to write in this case, but also the fact that it's so specific, right? So we're bringing a lot of skills together. So I recommend a few things for this pre-writing level. First of all, for all of the cards in my series, they come like out of 5 different pictures of each for each set. They come in full color, you print them on a color printer, and they come in black and white for the child to color them in. So one of the ways that you can make it easier, more multi-level or whatever you're looking for at this level is to have your pre-writer color or just cut out the pre-colored picture like from a greeting card or something like that if you're not using mine, and just glue it onto the front of a card. All right, so that's one thing that will be a little bit of differentiation there. Also, when it comes to coloring, if you're going to have a picture for the student to color and to put onto the front, or you're going to already have it on the front of the card like mine come, you want to be sure that the pre-writer level has very simple pictures, right? We don't want an elaborate like fireplace picture with a cat and its curling tail and stockings all here and candles and chairs and I mentioned stockings, but all of those details, right? That is for upper level students. We want for the pre-writers to be able to color it quickly. So maybe just a simple stocking or a simple wreath or something like that. All right, if the pre-writer is going to write himself, You want to be sure that you have big spacing and that you have lines for him to write on. Next, I recommend, and how my pre-writers come, is I recommend that you write the message first in a light colored highlighter, for example, and then he write over it. And that would be a really great way for a pre-writer to actually pen it himself, but have it already written for him. And mine also come with the option of messages already given that you can copy, that you can paste, cut and paste right into the card. So that's another option if the pre-writer is not ready to write. A third option, of course, is for the student to dictate to you and for you to write the message for him or her. If possible with the pre-writer, be sure that he writes the greeting as well as the closing. So, you could write dear and then he writes grandma or whatever. And then you could write love and then he writes his name. So even with pre-writers, you can try to do that at the very least their own name, even if they're like, 4 or 5, at the very least their own name. One of the keys to this pre-writing level with Christmas thank you cards or any kind of cards is to be sure that you are not asking too much all at the same time, that they don't feel like this is such a big chore that they can't begin to do it, or that it lasts too long. And so by doing any of these things, either pre-colored pictures or simple picture they color, lines that they write on, they dictate to you a message that is already written out. Mine come with messages and they can just copy and paste those. Some of those are rhymed and some of those are unrhymed, but they're very generic, like thank you so much for all your Christmas cheer. Thank you for the gift. You are so dear, or something like that. So it might have a rhymed message, or it might just say, thank you for making my Christmas bright, da, 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 da. But it's very generic, those messages, whether they're rhymed or unrhymed. Okay, let's move into beginning writing. So pre-writers, 3-year-old up to 2nd grade, depending on writability. And then beginning writers, we are looking at early elementary. So maybe your 1st grader can write full sentences from another sheet without any problems. Maybe your 3rd grader, 4th grader, maybe he or she can write sentences easily as long as you're right there to give him the spelling. So give them the spelling. So that would be another option. So again, I would offer the color or child color option. Again, we can increase the difficulty of the pictures. So my pre-writers moving into beginning writers does add, the pictures are more extensive. And so just as a side note, the pictures are some religious, like with the manger and so forth, and some just Christmas symbols like wreaths and trees and things like that, and then some Santa, elves, and so forth. So they cover the gamut in each of the levels. That way, we're kind of covering anybody who maybe doesn't want to use Santa or somebody who only wants to use religious symbolism. All right, so again, these pictures can be a little bit harder than the pre-writers, but not as extensive as I just described with the fireplace and so forth, which are in my advanced cards. All right, and even if your child, if you think that this whole thing, by the time they color, they paste, they write, is too much, then go ahead and give them some Christmas cards and let them cut out the front pictures of the Christmas cards and glue them onto their thank you card. All right, now, at this level, they have pretty wide lines again, so be sure you have pretty wide lines for them to write on. And they can recopy the messages. So the messages will be there in my packet, but you can write the message for your student. And, I would stick with 2 or 3 sentences, depending on how advanced the writing skills are for these kids. And then they can copy that over. You can also do what I encourage my parents of my pre-A, my 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade writers to do, and that is you write a sentence and then I'll write a sentence, right? And that's another way to keep things moving in this process of creating thank you cards. Again, I have the option of all of the messages, rhymed and unrhymed, for them just to cut out and glue right onto there. They fit right onto our cards, but you can do the same thing. You could write the message for them as they dictate it. You can have them you write it down on the board or something and let them copy word for word, a rhyme, and even, especially when you get into the next level, something like a quote or something like a Christmas quote or a gratefulness quote could also work for the body of the card. All right, so this level, you definitely want them to write the greeting and the closing, right? You want it to have their own personal penman touch, even if you used a typed message for the guts. All right, and finally, we're going to move into advanced, and this is middle school, as in my breakdown here. And so that is 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe even up into junior high, depending on, what your kids like to do and whether they want to do their own stuff for thank you cards or whatever. All right, now the pictures can be more elaborate at this stage, and so mine is like I described a little bit ago with that extensive fireplace setting. They can colored pencils, paint, watercolors. So at this level, you can really get more detailed. You could also use one of the easier ones, like in the beginning, use the beginning a beginning writer picture, kind of the middle of the road picture, if they want to, paint or something, and the more extensive pictures have too much detail to paint. So a couple options there for the cover. You can definitely have something for the student to copy over. Nice faint lines are really good on cards. I don't know if you remember growing up and writing cards and just, up and down and so forth. So nice faint, not as wide as the beginning writers and the pre-writers, but nice faint lines on the inside of the card would be really helpful even for the middle schoolers. And they won't be as wide necessarily as the other two. And again, some kids are really comfortable coming up with their own messages and some are not. So don't hesitate to write a message out for them and then copy it. My advanced one has pretty advanced copy for them to copy, both rhymed thank yous as well as paragraph thank yous. More sentences than the beginner. When I said 2 or 3 sentences would be, more than adequate. Encourage them if they're going to write their own at the advanced level to include a detail. So not just thank you for the remote control car, but rather thank you for the remote control car, and then have them ask them, what does it do or what do you like about it? So you want them to say more than thank you for the remote control car. If they use a scripted message, one that I have or one that you create for them, a rhyme or a quote or something, that's certainly fine too. Then at the bottom they could just write, thanks for the car, I love it, or something like that. But if they're going to pen it themselves and they're going to compose it themselves, then you want to cue them and you want to tell them not necessarily what to say, but ask them, what do you like about the car? What does it do? Why is it one of your favorites? And so forth. Okay, and so that is it for writing thank you cards. Penmanship wise, just whatever the child is more comfortable with. I have a lot of students who say, my mom wants me to write in cursive all the time. And I'm like, that's fine if that's what she wants you to do. And if I see that it's really going to be a problem for them in writing their essays or reports, then I might talk to the mom, and say, could they print the first copy and then do their final copy in cursive, so you can use whichever one your student is more comfortable. The couple of keys to all of this, of course, is going to be making it so that it's not a huge job. It's not a huge chore. We're not doing like an hour-long arts and crafts class and then an hour-long writing class. Something that they can manage maybe in 15 minutes or so with your help right beside them. And something that doesn't feel so big, like you have to write 5 sentences. Come on, think, what are you going to write? What are you going to write? And that is why I like giving them messages that they can cut and paste if they choose to do that as well. So just differentiate according to their interest, their attention span, right? Their level of writing and their level of penning. Okay, so remember not to confuse the two of those. Penmanship is art, writing is thinking. Right? And if they can say it, they can write it, but they might need for you to write it first. All right. Thanks a lot for joining me. Next week, I'll be back with more information about teaching subordinate clauses and using them within sentences. So don't forget to subscribe at YouTube and or IG and or iTunes. See you soon. Thanks.